Of course, it was a big night all across the state and the nation. In Mississippi, we had some big items on our ballot, from the U.S. Senate race to legalizing marijuana and changing the state flag.
Yeah, and here to talk about it all with us this morning is the Dean of Arts, Sciences, and Education at Mississippi University for Women and Professor of Political Science, Dr. Brian Anderson. Good morning, Dr. Anderson.
Good morning.
Let's start by talking about the big one, the national election, the presidential race. To talk a little bit about, as someone who lives and breathes politics, sort of what you've made of this year and particularly last night.
Well, it's been so contentious in the last several months, and Mississippi gets a little taste of it, but we're certainly not a swing state. But we watch with great interest what's going on in Georgia and North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and all those other states that are so close. We just have to wait to see for all the votes to be counted.
Now, the president last night claimed victory. What are your thoughts moving forward about the questions surrounding the election process right now?
Right. Well, you have to remember that each state has the power to run elections as they see fit. It's not a federal process, it's a state process. And so the intricacies of how they design it and how they count the votes, including whether or not they can start counting those mail-in ballots early, or if they had to wait to start yesterday, that means it'll take time, especially for states like Pennsylvania who couldn't start until yesterday. It's going to take several days to run through hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots.
Let's talk about some of those issues that were specifically on the Mississippi ballot. Medical marijuana passed, and there were the two initiatives, 65 and 65A. We were talking about it in the newsroom earlier, just trying to break down, because the verbiage can be a little bit confusing. Do you want to explain the difference between those two initiatives?
Right. The basics are that 65 empowers the Mississippi Department of Health to set up and regulate a framework in which private medical marijuana retail dispensaries will come into the state and offer the product to those who have permission from a doctor to purchase medical marijuana, up to 2.5 ounces in a 2-week period. The great concern from opponents, including Governor Reeves, is that this would invite a very powerful medical marijuana industry into the state, and even concerns about blurring the line between medical and recreational use. 65A, for the most part, maintained the traditional doctor-pharmacy relationship in terms of just bringing medical marijuana into roughly the same pattern that you would get any other prescription drug. It also required that there would only be a limited number of medical marijuana manufacturers in the state, so it'd just be a internal Mississippi process of producing the product and then consuming the product.
And Mississippi also voted on a new state flag, and overwhelmingly chose the "In God We Trust" state flag. Is this something that you expected?
Absolutely, and it was very a positive event because it was a transparent process with lots of citizen input. Compare that with the item on the ballot way back in 2001 when it wasn't transparent. I remember a lot of people looked at that ballot. You had the 1894 flag next to this new design, and many people wondered, where did this new design come from? There was no citizen input. There was no attempt to get everybody excited about a new design. But there definitely was this time. And it really helped that state leaders, beginning with Speaker of the House Philip Gunn, got behind the idea of taking down the old flag and moving toward a new one. And they passed that law that Governor Reeves signed to take down the old flag in late June and form that commission, ultimately deciding upon this one design that we voted on yesterday in very impressive numbers.
And you're right, it was quite the process. We were, seems like, constantly keeping viewers updated on where the state flag was in that process. Is this the last step? Is there more to do after this, or is this officially the new state flag?
I believe it's the new state flag, so it's pretty simple.
All right, well, exciting stuff. I'm sure people are going to be buying them up as soon as they are available. Before we let you go, and we're going to be visiting with you throughout the show, do you have any final thoughts as to how this morning and this day is going to go for people who are really excited to learn who the next president will be?
Right. I know there's great anxiety. We just need to let the states that are still counting and that are still very competitive do that very important work. They have to be given the time to get it done right and not have it rushed.
All right, Dr. Anderson, thanks so much for sticking with us. We're going to check back with you in just a little bit. Don't go any